The best story I ever told the kids that they liked was that thing about pull away with his arm. The dispatcher fielding things like that. You know, all that magic was missing.
What story was that?
The one about, you know, it's a Sunday afternoon and the guys are booking in. You hear all these cars and the dispatcher's fielding cars and someone's in a panic, you know. Oh, 8-4, 8-4. And finally the dispatcher gets around to him. Everyone's calm. And he said, there's a guy, he won't let go of my door handle. The dispatcher just goes, pull away with his arm. 6-5. He goes right on to the next car. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolute.
There was some great dispatchers.
Hi, good evening. We've got 4 ex-cab drivers sitting around. Imagine it's 3 in the morning and you stumble into a cafe and these guys are telling stories. And everybody wants to hear cab stories, right? I mean, that's all we do after our shift, is sit around and tell stories long into the night. But we've been away for it for a while now, so I want to hear some stories tonight.
Yeah, where you'd hear the guys, the dispatcher talking to the other driver. You know, actually, the way I really learned to drive cab really well was just by following what the other drivers were doing, you know, and with the computer, you have no way of ever picking that up, you know. But with the radio, you know, there was this one guy that was a really pro cab driver, and I would just always follow wherever he was going. I would book into that area right behind him. Or if I would hear the dispatcher call for him, I knew that that means the dispatcher was like favoring him and was holding a trip for me. And if he would say like he was busy there and there, then I would just try to suss out which area that guy wanted him, and I would book into there, and then I'd get the trip, you know. And it worked really good. And for a whole year, like I really just followed this guy around. Then right after that, we went on to computers, you know.
How long did you drive before computers? Seriously?
Oh, for years, because I started in '71.
Yeah.
Hey, don't you think it would be hard to start driving with the computers?
Way harder.
Oh, yeah. The radio, you got so many hints.
Sure. And besides that, the voice was fun. When it was busy, it was no fun because the guys fell behind. But when it was slow and you had a chance to chat, and like you say, you found out what other guys were doing. You're a guy booking to Fort Rouge, and you'd say to the dispatcher, well, why don't you tell John to meet me at Ozzy for a coffee or whatever. We don't have that now.
No, and with just like we were saying with all these codes that are cab lingo that comes over the computer, like there's no way, you can't go to the voice and ask the dispatcher what that means because that's such a hassle with the computer to try to get through.
Because you can't talk to the dispatcher. Rule number 1.
And if you're like a cool cab driver and you don't want to ever ask a question, right?
I know,
you want to be real close if you know everything.
That's right, that's what I did.
Yeah, you know,
that's the best part of the job.
Yeah, but you know, the funniest thing was when the first day I started driving, I had this really weird situation. There's a street, I believe it's Argus, or is it Arby? Argus?
Arby Bay.
Arby Bay. Arby Bay. There's the
other 3 streets I know.
By the Air Force Base, CFB?
Oh, no.
That's Argus. And there's also an Argus in Transcona, right?
Really?
Yes, there is an Argus in Transcona.
So I'm sitting out there in the Grace.
I know that one.
I'm sitting out there in the Grace, and like I've been waiting for an hour, and I get this trip. I look through my red book, and I find it says Transcona, but like I'm a new driver, and I don't know, right?
Oh,
I figure, well, okay, maybe.
Off you go.
So I'm sitting in the Grace, I drive all the way, and I'm just getting past the City Hall, and I'm heading on to the Disraeli, and he says, like, where are you, 19? Where have you...
Called back?
Yeah, I got several, you know. But
that's
so 19, where are you? And I says, well, I'm just passing the City Hall. I should be on Transcona in about 10 minutes. He says, what? Where are you? You know?
That happened to me with Booth. I think there's a Booth in Transcona too, and I was booked Grace. I was looking at my phone before, or the red book for a long time.
But I figured, like, you know, hey, it's my first day. I'm not going to ask stupid questions to the dispatcher. I said, if that's where that street is, I'm going to go there.
So speaking of first day, I can remember, like, on the radio when there was this rookie, and it was the hippie days, right? It was late 60s, and everybody's, you know, down, you know. Everything is a monosyllable, right? And this guy books in, I forget his number, and he says, well, I'm down by Eaton's, you know, and he's talking really, really slowly, and the older guys are, get that guy off the air, get that guy off the air, you know, whatever. Amazing, you know. But
can you remember your first trip?
yeah, my first trip was a 1011 on Burroughs, the 1100 block of Burroughs. It was a 1011. I was terrified, right? I book in, I'm about 4th in the North End. I finally get a trip. And I know how to find it. I know where Burroughs is. Runs right on McPhillips, goes right down. 1011.
Nobody there.
You know, nobody there.
No, I don't remember my first trip at all.
Do you remember your last trip?
No,
I don't remember my last trip either.
I don't at all either. I don't even remember my last shift. It's been so long, but
I
certainly remember my first
2 months ago, but I don't.
See, I started with a small fleet. I don't remember my first trip, but I remember I started in the summer when the business was very slow and it was a very small fleet. And most nights we'd have maybe 5, 7 cabs on the road compared to today, where with the fleet you'll have 150, 200 cars out there in a night.
Yeah.
And
50 book downtown.
yeah,
Oh,
it was just
64.
hilarious. I mean, we'd have 6 or 7 cars, and we had one big staff account that at midnight would sometimes call for 5 or 6 cars, and we had 5 or 6 cars on the road. And that was always a panic. You'd hear the dispatcher start to yell, right? And one guy'd be
Yeah.
out for coffee. What's he doing taking coffee now?
Yeah.
Can I get out of my car and go for a coffee?
No, there was a couple of years
way.
where I always played for that #1 Lombard trip there at midnight, you know, because you'd book in at 10 o'clock, you know, 47 times downtown. or
Guys still
something.
do
Then
that.
at 12 midnight, you'd get, you know,
Yeah,
6,
it's amazing.
10,
Guys
10
still
cars
do
to
that.
#1 Lombard.
But you can get the Windsor Hotel going
Yeah,
2
yeah,
blocks.
yeah.
Lost your turn.
But
If you
after we-
refuse it, you're back
okay.
to being
After we went on
187.
computer, it didn't work as good anymore.
No.
You know.
Let's do a little one-upmanship here. Who's got the shortest trip?
I've got the shortest trip of all. I think I've got the most.
I had one from Kennedy, 400 block, one of those apartment blocks there.
Yeah.
Right by Coppell, I guess it is, and they wanted to go to the downtowner hotel.
That's a good one.
It's about a block.
I still say I've got the best, though.
No, I think I have a shorter one than you.
Okay.
Tell me yours.
This is a
have a short
restaurant.
one?
Let's go. No, this one's the building at the back of the St. Boniface Hospital, to the front, to the visitor's entrance of the St. Boniface
Wow, they
Hospital.
were probably crippled.
150 yards.
Oh,
No,
that's-
A healthy
Guy says,
person.
do you know a good place to eat in St. Boniface? And I said, well, there's 3 or 4 restaurants I can think of. Oh, never mind. Take me to the hospital. I'll eat in the restaurant there. I nearly went berserk because I lost my place for that trip.
No. Courts of St. James to the Dominion in the Courts of St. James shopping center.
Okay,
Now,
then we gotta
that's
get
shorter.
Okay, now we have to
That's
get.
shorter.
We got to get someone to get
I mean,
a tape measure.
Front door of the Courts of St. James apartment
Do you have
block
a short one?
to the
No,
Dominion.
and I'll tell you something. I've had plenty of short ones. I've blotted them all out of my memory. People forget in Winnipeg what gentlemen the cab drivers are here. I remember more than once in the summertime walking up to a guy sitting on Côte de Neige and saying, listen, take me to 5400 Côte de Neige. And the guy'd say, I'm going to lose my place for that? Walk.
Yeah, yeah. People
Nobody
don't
says that
understand.
here.
You've just
I've had
lost your
trips from the
place.
North Star to the Marlborough,
Yeah.
but it was raining, so.
Oh yeah. God. No, those are
Yeah,
bad
North
trips.
Star to
I
the
had trip-
Clarendon I had. North Star to St. Charles was a regular too, you know, things
So
like
here's
that.
what I learned, though. Here's what I learned. You never get aggravated, or you try not to get aggravated when you get a short trip, because I remember what happened to
We're
me
all
one
nice
time.
guys.
They gave me the address, which was like about 300 yards away, and I, bit my lip, blood coming out, trying to be pleasant. And then they said, oh, and by the way, you have to wait for me here,
Yeah,
and then
there
we're
is
going to
always
right
that,
the
yeah.
ends of the earth.
Yeah.
It was like a
Yeah.
$20 trip.
Speaking of
Yeah.
the ends of the earth, so what's your longest trip you ever had?
Well, I once took some people to Peking in China.
That's right. You were sitting at the airport.
Oh, sorry, I'm lying.
If only I could get one to Transcona.
You remember
But
this,
no.
Dave, about 15 years ago, there was a guy that went to Montreal?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that was in the days it was 50 cents a mile, and he got
Yeah.
darn near the full rate on that.
Did he get time to go home and get his toothbrush?
Yes.
I mean,
And he got cash in advance, by the way. That's the way it has to be.
I remember,
sure.
I remember hearing about
No.
that. I mean,
My
Everybody
longest
goes out of
trip
town
was
without
maybe
cash in
25
advance, gotta have
miles.
mud
That was
remains.
it.
I thought Stonewall was great.
North of
The
That's a
Falcon.
good trip.
North of Pine Falls, I think that was the longest trip I ever had. So.
That is a
When
long
there was a bus trip,
100
there were
miles or
a bus
whatever.
strike
Yeah.
for about 3 or 4 days. A lot of guys had long trips. Prince
Yeah,
Albert,
that's when I was
Minneapolis,
living
and
in
all sorts
Toronto
of
and
stuff.
wasn't driving at the time when that.
Wow.
And when the air lines
would
were
love
on
a
strike there one time, there was a lot of guys going to Minneapolis and stuff.
Yeah,
Grand
Rochester
Forks
and
flying them
Minnesota and
over the
stuff.
border.
Don't cab drivers just love to sit around and dream about the big trip, eh?
That's right. That's right. I've never had one.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I used to
Really?
think like Selkirk or Portage de Prairie was a big trip. Anything out of town, you know.
How about
Even
an-
St. Norbert or Headingland.
Well, listen.
That
in the
reminds me
old
of
days, people, I was going to say this before, the cars are so much better today than they were with the fleets because the owner drives them. If the brakes aren't right, then he gets them fixed because he fears for his own life. In the days of the fleets, what did the owner care? If the brakes weren't working right, he'd just tell you, well, what the heck, you got 2 brakes left. I mean, don't bother me until they're all gone, eh?
In the days of the fleets, there was different license plates too. If they had livery plates or if they had
Exactly. And most of them were local
LVA or taxi.
because they
Yeah,
were such.
and you couldn't go
a lot
out
of them
of
were
town with
garbage.
those.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I had a
Laws
customer
exist.
get into the car and say, take me to Selkirk, Manitoba, and I picked up the mic and I told the dispatcher, and he says, no, you don't. I said, what do you mean, no, I don't? He says, that car, he
Can't
says,
go out of
we
town."
don't trust it to go out of town.
Yeah.
I said, gee, thanks. What am I sitting out here, rolling bomb or what? But it literally, I mean,
It's
the
just the
wheels
licensing.
fell off it 2 weeks later, so I
Well,
can
that
understand
reminds me
why.
of the on the radio system where a guy had a trip to Alma, up the CN line. But the dispatcher thought he said Elmwood, and he said, "Yeah, have a good trip."
Never came back till 2 days later.
Exactly.
Dispatchers can be pretty snarky. Oops. None of them are listening. No, one time, one of my first nights, it was a real busy Friday night, raining, right?
Oh yeah.
Really busy downtown, just going crazy, and I'm sitting at I got a fare, and they wanted to go to the Ellis and Hargrave power station there, and so while I'm waiting for them to come out with their bottle, somebody comes up to me and wants a taxi. I said, no, I'm busy. Just a minute, I'll see if I can get one for you. So I try and call the dispatcher. Is it possible here at the Elephant and Hargreaves candy store? And he goes, tell someone who really cares.
No, you know what I would always do? I would always ask the guy where he was going, because if it was a lot better trip than I knew I was going to get out of there, then I was like, okay.
No, wait, you know what? Cab drivers are honest, they wouldn't do that.
I used to do? I used to fake it. Someone would say, could you get me a cab? And I go, yeah, and I pick up the microphone so that the people could see me talking on the microphone.
Don't give away our trade secrets.
Of course I wouldn't. Maybe that lady's watching this program would get shot. No, but it's great. These are the rich people especially think that you can get a taxi right away.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're parked in front of the CNR station when the train gets in.
Can't you?
And, you know, driver.
So many people standing on the street trying to flag you down. They're bewildered why cab drivers always drive on by. You know, don't they want a fare? What's the matter? You understand that you're busy. You got to go get one.
Well, you know, the funniest thing is about stuff off the street is I always preferred working off the street. One of the reasons was tips were better. And the important thing was it was really funny. Somebody called a cab at home and they felt like, well, they called it and here it is and away we go and like that. But if they raised their hand on the street and got a cab, they felt as if they had done something and they were so pleased with themselves that they would tip you extra because they were so good.
Yeah. In the old days on the radio, you try doing that all evening, and when it slows down, you try getting a radio trip, and the dispatcher will say to you, oh, sure, he won't talk to me all night. Now he wants a trip. No way. Find your own.
Exactly.
That's right.
You got to play the system.
But you know, people get their perceptions of what cab driving is all about from like movies and TV, and that's what it is in New York. Put up your hand, you get a cab. But like Winnipeg is different. It's a phone business city.
Sure. No, but I actually had a person that
me.
flagged me down and say, can I do that? Can I actually flag you down, or do I have to go and phone in?
Yeah.
So a lot of people
Winnipeg
don't
is
know.
a radio business city, though.
Yeah,
I've explained that to people before, too. You know, customers ask you, well, what's it like here? Well, you know, there's really not that many flag downs. There's quite a few places to hang around,
domestic
right?
business, because there aren't that many tourists and there aren't that many businessmen here. Those are the main people who walk out of a building and expect to get a cab and go 4 blocks and jump in and out.
I like the guys that say, wow, there's a big convention in town. I guess that'll mean a lot of business for you guys. Oh, sure, from the convention center to the Holiday Inn, right?
Listen,
I need that trip.
The PC convention that we had here a couple of years ago, that was good business. Because all the hotels were full, and you'd pick up one guy at one hotel, and go to the next hotel, drop off, pick up another one, go to the next hotel. I would go like from the Holiday Inn downtown to the Viscount Court, out to the Birchwood, then around to the Hambana, then back downtown, like non-stop. Someone in my car the whole long time. Trips. It was just great.
The thing you got to remember is you're making $1.35 for the first 11th of a mile, and then every 11th of a mile your average goes down. And so the important thing is in and out, in and out. Yeah, and it's always the convention center
give me a long
Gary
trip
to the west end that makes you the most
Give me
money.
a long trip any day. I'd rather have it.
Most guys are like that, and I never was. I always liked the short ones.
Because you get so tired all the short trips. I like to sit and nap and read for a while between long trips.
Lazy nap, he calls it.
That's a good nap business for a long time. You like to just be lazy.
Did you guys ever drive days? Or were you all night driving?
I did. I drove
you know what I
days,
used to do
maybe
when I
3
drove
weeks.
days? I'd take a pillow with me for the first few hours.
I did that too, yeah. I used to have a pillow with me. Well, on day shift, you know, you start at 4 o'clock in the morning, but you wouldn't get your first trip till 6. So, you know, you'd book in at 4 o'clock and you'd have a pillow, and then you'd lie down on the seat and sleep for 2 hours.
7th.
Hey, listen, this is a really weird thing about that. You know, the computers, I mean, like this is sort of strange ESP thing that would happen a lot of times with me. It happened so often that I don't know what it was all about, because I would wake up just like 30 seconds before my trip would appear on the screen, and I never knew how this happened, you know.
You didn't hear the first
buzzer or anything, you know. Sometimes I would even update, you know, like I'd been like 10 times when I booked it, and then I'd fall asleep, and I'd update, and I'd be first out, and then just like that I'd get a trip. And I'd been sleeping soundly for like an hour, and all of a sudden I would wake up, then I would get my trip. Like, why did this happen?
Well,
I don't understand.
Well, that brings us into metaphysics.
The metaphysics of cab driving.
Let's turn everything to
exactly, because there is a lot of metaphysics to it. You know, it's when you need it least that you get the best. It's like when you go to the airport and you wait in line. The longer you wait, the worse the trip is going to be.
Oh, for sure, exactly.
That's true.
And once you start
Could you find
waiting
the
an hour,
international
you know
in for
it's
me?
going for 2 1/4. If you pull in and pull out, you know they're going to Transcona. If you sit there and wait an hour and a quarter, they're going to an airport hotel.
I never, ever played the airport unless the message came on the screen.
40 cars to the port.
Cars
now.
needed at the port.
The port is screaming for cars.
Brooklyn or something like that.
And then you head there.
For so many years, I did almost all the things that, you know, you say you didn't do. Like, there was one whole year that I spent doing nothing but airport, Winnipeg Inn. Airport,
Hate
Winnipeg
the airport.
Inn. You know, I did that for a long time, and then, like, I got sick of that.
You like
and then
playing all the areas.
I play the whole, that's what I like, because the magic to me is figuring out what I don't know already.
Yeah.
Like I like being in a new neighborhood.
Getting new stories.
Well, I did
Sure.
that for years. I
Comparing
did that for
stories.
years, and then
Yeah.
after a while, I just got tired, and I just settled into like the district, Fort Garry, and I ended up just playing the district for like several years.
You got
That's
lazy.
all I did. Yeah, I was lazy.
Safe.
You know? But it's a very relaxing way to drive because you never have to worry about
Yeah,
hustling
but-
trips. You get a trip out of Fort Garry, and wherever you go, you just go right back there, and then you wait for your next one. and you go.
Well, it's the hustle factor.
But
and
it's the
that
hustling that
difference-
makes it fun.
And that's the
man.
difference
Wow.
day shift to night shift. Day shift,
yeah.
you can't push. You see, at night you can place yourself. You can say, no matter where I am, I can be back at the North Star in 12 minutes. It doesn't matter if you're in Transcona or in Assiniboia. The
Yeah.
fact is, in the daytime, because of the traffic, you've got to play it where you lay.
Yeah.
At night, you make your own luck. You go out there and you pick your places, and that's what I always loved. I drove
Yeah.
day shift for 6 months, couldn't stand it a single day.
Yeah.
And every day was a grief and aggravation.
I'll tell you the day I decided I'd never drive days again. It was a snowy morning, and when about the 13th person said, "What do you think of the weather?"
Oh, yeah.
That was it.
You figure
Well,
the
that's a-
conversation is more boring on the day shift than the
I
evening?
think so. Sure.
Well, it's just a general factor.
I'll try acupuncture. You know, they're clinic to clinic, right?
Yeah,
No,
groceries.
it's a general factor of public service jobs. I mean, where you always get the same sort of conversation. I mean, I
Yeah.
even notice it now, the job I'm doing, and if I go into like these banks or I'm doing courier dispatch thing, and I walk in and I'm not going to say to the guy there like, "Wow, it's a pretty nice day outside," because I know like he's heard that
heard
all
it.
day long, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
But it's the nature of those jobs. It's like the staff trips. I mean, you get people that are coming off work, they've been a telephone operator for 8 hours or an information operator. What they want to do is get in the cab and go home and like that, and they just have a little conversation. The ones that are the fun ones and the crazy ones at night are the people that are out there just because they want to be out there. It's not because they have to be or because they have a place to go. It's because, hey, it's nighttime and I got nothing to do. Let's go out and see what's happening in the city. And that's what makes the night shift always fun to me was
Yeah.
people were out there not because they had to be, but because they wanted to be. And they said, what am I going to do now, you know? And they'd wander around. Maybe I'll go to a party, or maybe I'll go to a coffee shop, or maybe I'll go to a bar and see if there's anybody I know.
Yeah, well, day shift, you know, you get a lot of sort of boring trips, you know, going to the medical arts or going to hospitals and stuff, and you very rarely do you get, like, interesting people conversation. And so the odd time that I would, like, say once a day or once every 5 days, I'd get someone with an interesting conversation. And then funny thing would happen is, like, I wouldn't realize where I was going, and I'd get lost, or I'd take the wrong turn, because here I was talking to this guy, and I was having a good time talking, and all of a sudden he'd say, I think we've passed our corner. Oh! And then
I
I,
like
had
when
one of
that
my
happens.
worst accidents that way too. I was having this really nice chat with this good university prof, and we were just cruising up Waverley through River Heights. And you know, Waverley's got a couple of places where it's right away and a couple of places where it's stop sign, like you stop at
Yeah,
Grosvenor,
right,
you stop at
right.
Gordon,
Yeah.
but otherwise you can barrel right through. And the stop sign had fallen down at Grosvenor. And so what do I know? I just figure if there's no stop sign, I don't stop, you know. So I'm chatting with this guy, having a nice conversation, and I just go cruising right through Grosvenor, and I get broadsided by this other car coming 30 miles an hour down Grosvenor, you know. And he jumps out, and he's got his old grandmother in the car with him. And so he jumps out of his
got a
car and comes
bloody
yell,
nose.
yeah, well, she's smashed up against the dash. He comes jumping out of his car and yelling at me and saying, "What's the matter with you? Why didn't you stop?" And stop sign. Because I was really freaked because I didn't know what happened. I got out of my car and I looked around. There's no stop sign. So I don't know what happened. I don't know. And then I saw, the stop signs lying on the ground. It had fallen, you know. But like that was one of the worst car accidents I had, and it was just because I was talking and because the stop sign had fallen down.
I had a fender bender, but not a real accident. But I never had an accident.
my accident.
Driving a taxi. I once had to
one at
slam on the
Logan
brakes
and,
though, and the little old lady, I
stuff.
couldn't see her in
That
the
was a good
rearview
one.
mirror anymore. She was right behind the seat on the floor of the car.
You guys ever play Blake Garden?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Staff.
Yeah.
I was playing for that trip one time, but of course I got somebody who just wanted to go to what's the closest bar on Keewatin just to get a six-pack
just
and
around
come
the corner,
back.
yeah.
Westbrook or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, it's not that great,
was
but
your
I'm on the trip there and I'm waiting for the light. No, yeah, it was red, and then when it turned green, I just moved on through, and I got hit real good by a guy running the red light. Spun around and front end right into that drugstore that's on the corner there, right into
Yeah.
the plate glass window. That was
Right.
great. But I had to take the rest of the night off.
But it's funny how you can go
Those
in
shake
long spells without any accidents, and then suddenly you have like 3 or 4 in a row. 'Cause that happened to me that one winter. I think we were driving 210 there, and we got the. First of all, I cracked it up once, and then you did, and then I did again, and then then the car was on the third accident. The car was so badly wrecked that the owner actually decided to rent another cab for us so that we could stay on the road, right? So he rented another car.
After all those accidents.
Yeah.
Talk
and
about
he put
trust.
this cab on the road, and we had it for 2 weeks. And then just the day before the other car was coming out of the garage, I'm just cruising to the airport, and a guy runs a red light right in front of me, and I piled right into him and cracked up that rental car as well. But one of them was really strange, where I was sitting at a red light. I wasn't even moving at all. I'm just sitting there waiting to go to the airport. And there was a car turning in front of me like this, turning left in front of me. And all of a sudden, his car just comes right into mine and smashes up the front end of mine. Like I didn't even know what had happened, because I'm sitting there stopped and he piles into me. But what had happened was another car was coming from the other side and it hit him on the other side and it knocked him into me. You know? Strangest things.
It's funny, isn't it? I remember an owner I used to drive for always used to say,
An owner? Did you always?
my owner, just like a slave, right? My owner.
Somebody didn't
Exactly.
know. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
My owner.
But this guy, we used to say, the car was took a little smack the other night. Like it was no big deal, right? I would be an accident, you know. But they don't. They've had so many.
Well, I had an owner
just
once
doesn't-
who would say, no matter what kind of accident I'd have or what had happened to me, speeding ticket or whatever, he would just say, he would think it was my fault no matter what. You know, he'd say, well, you just shouldn't have been there then, you know?
Well, that's what I always would say to myself.
I always
I'd
had
have
a
some
decent
customer
owner,
who was giving me grief and aggravation. I'd say, why didn't I take a coffee break? Or why did I book into this zone? I should have followed so-and-so into
Yeah.
this and that. If I had just done this, I wouldn't have been there at the wrong time, you know.
Which reminds me, the best thing about cab driving, let's say, for example, you've sat at the Fort Garry Hotel for 45 minutes. You're suicidally depressed. You figure, oh, I better go over to St.
2 in
Boniface.
the morning or something?
Yeah, as soon as you leave,
They-
cars at Fort Garry Hotel,
Oh,
right?
Yeah, happens
Oh,
all the time.
no. No matter how good you are at it, there's an element of luck. That makes it interesting.
Yeah.
That's
You know?
that's what it is, and it's the sales thing too. Because you know we talk about the times that were fun, and they're always the times that we're busiest. And it's not so much that you made a lot of money, but it's like any salesman goes out, and he makes a bunch of sales. You just feel good. It's not that the fact is you're making money, but it's the fact that you're going out and trying to sell something, which is a service, and people are buying. You're driving down the street and somebody flags you in St. James and somebody needs a cab there, and that's great. And those nights you come home feeling, wow, I've really been doing this and that, and I was in there and everything.
Well, I never come home like that.
Oh, on a good night,
I always figured I
go.
survived. I never
Oh.
got shot.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean, though.
No, I used to like
I
it.
never went home. I would just go to a coffee shop and spend 5 hours after my shift sitting there.
I never
telling
did.
cab
I was
stories.
sat in my cab waiting for the last trip. One more trip.
Yeah.
One more trip.
Or we
That
used to
can
go
be a
play- we used to go
dangerous
play
thing, though.
pinball over there at that gas station.
That one last trip can wreck everything because you've figured it out in your head, right? You've been bored. So you figured out how much money you've made per hour, right? And whether it's better than last night, right?
Minimum
So,
wage or not?
yeah, so you're gonna play for the last trip, your whole ratio, because you wait an hour and a half and it's a $2.15 trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I do remember my last trip. Now, I was in front of the Marble Club, expecting one of those $20 fares, but I was booked in East Kildonan, a little trick, of course, and I got this trip. I went flying out past Monroe, thinking, oh, great, it's probably a trip to the airport. It was later going about maybe 7 or 8 houses away. So I left downtown, went flying, speeding, everything else, get to the house, thinking, good, this is going to be my last trip, and it's going to be a good trip. Sure. Just a few houses away.
That was your last trip ever?
That was my last trip ever. That's when I drove the car into the river.
I hope she's happy.
And so will you ever do it again?
Oh, yeah, I
Drive
love it.
cab?
I love it. I'll do it again, for sure.
I'll tell you, as a part-time job, it's a fabulous job.
Yeah.
When I used to work in an office 5 days a week, I'd come out Sunday mornings, I'd come out for the day shift. And because Sunday day shift is probably the slowest shift of the week, and because I was
Yeah.
working 5 days,
Next to
and
Good
because
Friday.
the owner really didn't care, if it went, it would be great. And if it didn't go, so what? So I'd park the car at noon and call it a day.
Yeah.
And then it was really fun because you'd go out, and if it was going great, boy, you could keep going till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, 12, 14 hours, no problem. And if it was going badly, I'd go and I'd have breakfast and I'd have coffee and I'd go home and I'd watch some TV and
Yeah.
the car broke down or something.
But no matter what you say, it is very much money, and people always have
No.
this myth: get into
Yeah.
your cab and think that just because you're a cab driver, you make piles of money.
Yeah.
And it's just
You make-
not
it's
true.
poor
I mean, I
money.
drove 14 years,
Yeah.
and I never made more than really minimum wage, like $4
Yeah.
or $5 an hour is what you average.
Averaged out. I mean,
Over
sometimes
the week, I mean.
on a busy Friday night, it sometimes works out to $11 or something like that. But when you average it out with the
That
poor
doesn't-
Monday and the
well,
lousy
sure.
Tuesday and the mediocre Wednesday, then it does work out to minimum wage.
Yeah.
But I'll do it I hope to be able to do it for a long time. I'm going to keep my license current. I don't care if I own Southern
Yeah,
Manitoba.
I'll let my
At some
license
point,
expire
I'm
3
going
times.
to drive cab because it's great.
Yeah, you got
It
to
is.
keep in touch with the.
For sure, it's
sort of-
crazy out there. It's really crazy. There's no, and to be
dead.
part of that craziness.
You love
It's
the
really
stand out
fun.
there, Ed.
It's,
I love
it's
the
again like the
streets.
salesman. You know, it's like your boss, you talk about my owner and so on. But the fact is, they don't care what you do out there. When I take a cab out, all the guy wants to know is that I'm going to work tonight. And I'm not going to break his car into tiny pieces. And he doesn't care if I come in with so much X amount of money. He doesn't care whether I made it $2 at a time driving people home from Main Street or if I had trips from Transcona to Rochester, Minnesota. He doesn't care how I got it, where I went, what I did. He gets back his car in one piece and his share of the business.
But he wants some money back. That's
Yeah.
all he
That's all he wants.
He doesn't get to spend any gas.
And
either.
everybody has their own
Of course,
business.
you have to bring in a lot of money and
Yeah.
not use
And
any
not use
gas.
any gas.
No, I never worked for anyone like that.
Oh, geez, I
Never.
used to work for a guy who used to drive everybody crazy. He would tell his drivers, don't put in more than $5 worth of gas. And I used to work a 36-hour shift for him. So, of course, what did I do? I stole off the top and put it in the tank, because you can't do 36 hours on $5 of gas, right? And, but we had all kinds of crazies in the business.
Yeah.
You know, like the person you work for is really important. Like the person I worked for
Oh, yeah, I agree.
you know, for Unicity anyway. Really good to work for. No complaints at all. Just a really good person. I'm putting in the plug for him.
Yeah.
See if you can get a part-time.
See if I can get a part. I need the car.
Okay, well, this almost makes me want to go back to cab driving. I mean, I used to sit in the car and have customers say, well, you must meet a lot of interesting people. You got a lot of stories to tell. And I always say, no, they're just all normal people. I could never remember any at the time, but now.
You can't. You
Once
can't
you get
remember
together
them
with
at
a
the
couple
time.
other cabs,
Yeah,
just
that's
start
it, that's the
talking
key.
anyway, all these old
That's
stories
like-
come down again.
Just got to tell those stories.
I used to bore my friends with cab stories.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm teaching, so I bore my students with cab stories. But they like them.
Yeah.
They like them. There's no doubt we've seen some interesting things.
Okay, thanks.
That's it.
That's it, that's that.
Good night. We run out
Those
of
guys,
time.
the whole crew's asleep. Cab stories. Right?
We'll have to do another show and tell more.
Good ones.
We never told any of the good
We never
ones
told
yet.
any of our favorite stories.
Well, you didn't ask.
No.
Oh,
not
okay.
true.
Let's tell cab.
Well, we'll do another show and tell some more.
Keep the
some
tape
real
running here
stories.
and tell do another whole show right now.
about nose like a week.